Red Cross aid workers and one local volunteer were abducted yesterday in northern Syria. Over the past 2.5 years, the Syrian conflict has claimed more than 100,000 lives. It has also pushed 2.1 million people out of its homeland. I have Francois Aubert with me in the studio today, and he is an expert on the Middle East. Francois, welcome.
Thank you.
So Francois, can you give us a brief update into the recent developments surrounding Syria and, of course, its surrounding countries?
Well, actually, if you look at the conflict in Syria, you probably have three phases. The first one is some external governments thinking that they could simply top out, the current Assad regime. And actually, they could not. They could not for a couple of reasons. The first reason, they probably underestimated the strength of the regime and how, in terms of police, in terms of military. The second thing is they thought that they will have one opposition body, and actually it never happened. And the third reason is the importance for the Russians to have that base on the Mediterranean, that military base on the Mediterranean Sea. So it couldn't work. And then we moved to a second phase where we had a lot of fighters coming from notably Libya, from Mali and other places, armed by the Westerners in Libya then, who are now creating the mess we see, and probably the abduction is linked to that. And we entered very recently to a third phase that is quite amazing, because that third phase is possible because we have a number of conditions met around there. First, of course, the elections in Iran with a new president who was partially educated in the UK and with big economical problems definitely in Iran, with the fact that the main bargain, the blocking the Hormuz Strait, will not last for long because a new petrol harbor is being built in the Emirates on the Oman Sea side. So that's one reason. The second reason is Egypt, the army is back in power, and actually everybody's quite happy with that. The third reason is Turkey, and we can see the map. They're all around here. Turkey is facing internal problems, and we could see that in Istanbul, but this is probably just the sign of something that is more profound. So they're pretty much focusing on their own situation. So at the end of the day, we have governments who are keen to discuss. And what is happening now is clearly the US and Russia talking together how to solve that issue. And Geneva 2 is precisely there. I mean, it will happen probably later this month. And we are really looking at a way of solving the problems of a big portion of the area. And of course, this is good news if they can make it. They have conditions today that are absolutely new. And that will also cover, by the way, probably the Hezbollah situation, because that was one of the first will was to take them out and to cut that line between Iran and Hezbollah. So we will probably see, if things are going the right way, a much better situation in the coming months. And hopefully, because what is happening in Syria actually goes way beyond the Syrian situation, which is sad because the Syrian people are paying for that.
Now, if we're looking at chemical weapons, the OPCW has said that it's put out a plea for a ceasefire because fighting is actually stopping access to sites and stopping their work. So now the UN has said that by November 1st, Syria's chemical weapon production equipment must be destroyed. Now, do you see this actually happening?
I think it's, again, first we're talking about a novel resolution. So the Russians are also quite keen to see this happening. Now, if we think about it, is really that those chemical weapons are not really useful for the Syrian army, if you think about it. So for them, it's pretty easy to say, yes, sure, come and destroy them. In addition, we will never know whether all of them will be destroyed. Maybe some of them will be hidden. But for now, it is the interest of the Syrians, of the Russians, of the Americans, of pretty much everyone to see these weapons being destroyed. And that is a pretty good news, again, for the area.
Okay, and moving on to international aid. Now, the UK has pledged a further £100 million. Now, this brings the UK's contribution to £500 million. Now, we are seeing international aid coming from everywhere. Also, Ireland said a further £3 million recently. Now, is this aid actually getting to the people in need? And are we going to see further aid?
Well, France and England's situation is a bit peculiar. Historically, this is their area. We had in 1916, if my memory serves, we had that agreement, Sykes-Picot, between the French and the English to split what was the Levant area at the time. So for them, it's a natural place to be. The problem is they're currently somewhat losing ground, because currently the game is really at Russia-US level. It's no more at the European level. The Europeans, by joining the sanctions against Iran a couple of years ago, actually are also now among the bad people in the area. So they are they have real situation, and they just try to keep some kind of involvement. And their situation, politically speaking, is quite difficult. So I guess that the UK move is just to say, look, we're still here, and we want to do something. Because if we think about it, if the Iran situation can be solved, we are talking about a huge, huge market. 85 million people being under sanctions since 79, so we're talking about 40 plus years. And everything has to be done there. So they will really do the utmost. And historically, Iran is more a country buying in the US, not in Europe. And if they have a choice, everything else being equal between a Boeing and an Airbus, they will go for the Boeing.
Of course.
And I think this is where the challenges of the Europeans are. So probably the British move is part of that element, trying to say, oh, look, we're still here, we're still helping. And of course, then we will have something to sell.
Okay, now looking at this picture on the topic of refugees, and this picture was taken in Turkey. These are Syrian refugees. Now, a recent development in Turkey is that they're actually building a 2-meter high wall across the border to prevent people from crossing the border and to prevent smuggling. So, what are your views? Do you think it'll be successful, or, despite having a wall, do you think people are still going to be crossing the border?
Well, we see that it doesn't really help, because they're still crossing the border. We had walls in history. We have one between Palestine and Israel. We have one, of course, the Berlin Wall. And historically, walls are just short-term solutions, and it's not really helping. In addition, by the time they will be done with the wall, hopefully, we will have a more peaceful area, and these measures won't be necessary anymore. At least this is the best we can hope.
Francois, thanks very much for coming into the studio. I'm sure we will see you very soon.
Hopefully, thank you.
And thank you for watching Dukascopy TV today. I hope you enjoyed this update on Syria. Now do stay tuned, as Dukascopy TV will be keeping you up to date with further economic and forex analysis. Goodbye for now.